Hi everyone, it's Rain here from Rain's Kitchen and Garden. I wanted to share a little bit of home repair for your snowblower today. You wouldn't know it, but it's still winter here. It's actually raining right now, but the weather forecast is calling for 2 very big snowstorms before the end of March, so I have to make sure that my snowblower is working properly. During the last snowstorm, the auger stopped spinning, so I couldn't use it, but I think I figured out how to fix it at home. As you can see behind me, this is my road, and it's a private road, so I don't have services. I have to clear it myself. I have done it by hand before, and it took 4.5 hours, and there's no way in heck I'm ever doing that again. So I need a reliable machine. So I'm going to try to fix my snowblower, including my driveway and the road behind me. It's about a 1/2 kilometer long, so I really need to have a reliable machine. So let's get into the shed, and I'm going to show you what the problem is, and hopefully I'll be able to fix it. This is my snowblower. I call it the Beast. It's a Craftsman II. I bought it secondhand 5 years ago, and it's been more or less reliable. But like I said, during the last snowstorm, the auger stopped working. And for those who don't know, this is the auger. It's the blades that spin around, and they pick up the snow and the ice and filter it up through the chute, and the chute throws it out. So if the auger is not spinning, you do not have a functioning snowblower. So I called my snowblower guy, and he told me it could either be the shear pins, which I will explain in a moment, or it could be the drive belt. And my fingers were crossed that it wasn't the drive belt, because oh my goodness, he told me I had to open up the motor, and I had to go and move the belt by hand and make sure you take the spark plug out, because you're actually activating the engine and it could spontaneously start and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, in one ear, out the other. So I went to YouTube and I looked up how to check to see if your shear pin is the problem. So shear pins, this is the main culprit usually, according to my snowblower guy. The shear pins break, they shear off when they've been overused. This is one example of a shear pin. It looks just like a little screw with a little butterfly clip at the bottom, and I believe this is the one that I need to use. It looks like a nut and a bolt, right? That's what a shear pin is. And basically all around the snowblower there are tons of shear pins. Well, I wouldn't say tons, there's probably maybe a 6 shear pins depending on where they're located. And they're there for a reason. They're disposable. They're supposed to break if your snowblower is taking on too much. For example, my road is rock and gravel. So when I am clearing it, sometimes I hear a little ping, ping, ping. I can hear the rocks hitting the auger, the blade, as it's spinning, and I can see it going through the chute. So the whole point of the shear pin is that it's supposed to be disposable. It breaks itself off when it's taking on too much work that might damage the snowblower, and in this case the auger. So I've already checked, and one of my shear pins has broken off, and it makes total sense, but there's nothing I can do about it. It's my road, it's the way it is. So I think the idea is to have a lot of these things handy. So I'm going to go and show you where the shear pins are located on the auger. I'm going to try to take them off and then replace them. So if we look at the auger here, hopefully everything's going to focus. This is one of the shear pins on this side. This one is intact, okay? But look over here. This one is completely broken off. So I'm hoping that the shear pin is the only problem here. And you might notice there is actually a rock here that was wedged between the blade and the back. So, you know, I didn't even know that that was there. This is what my road basically looks like. So the auger actually picked this up, and that's probably why the shear pin broke itself off. I think it goes without saying, but I will say it anyway. Make sure that your machine is not running. Let it cool down, because some parts can get very, very hot after you've used it for a while. And remove the key before you go anywhere near the auger, okay? Safety first. I'm just going to lift the machine and turn it a bit on its back, just to make it easier to access the auger here, okay? So this is the shear pin, okay, that has broken off. It should be easy enough to get out. I've got a hammer and I've got a little screwdriver. I'm just gonna do that to try to get it out. If it's stuck, I have some WD-40 that I will spray on it and let it sit there for a little bit. And hopefully I'll be able to get it out on the first shot though. All right, here we go. It's stuck, but I will turn it, let's see. I'll turn it around onto this side here. See if I can get it out through that hole. One hole is bigger than the other. There we go. Did you hear that? Plunk. And that's the shear bolt. Okay. As I mentioned, it's supposed to look like this, and it totally broke off. There's a small hole here, and there's a large hole here. I tried to fit the new shear pin into the large hole, but for some odd reason it's not going in, so I'm just going to try to punch it in this way. There we go. It's in, okay? So now I've got that nut, and I'm going to screw that in on the bottom. Make sure that's nice and tight. And let's see if this is actually the right pin. I think it's tight enough. That worked. There is actually a little spot here on the snowblower. It says shear bolt tool compartment. Shear pins are also called shear bolts. So that's where I'm going to put all my extras so that I have them handy, because knowing my road and knowing my beast of a snowblower, these shear pins are probably going to break off quite often. I'm so proud of myself. You know, I was super terrified the first time that I touched that auger. Even though I pulled out the key, I even thought about pulling out the spark plug just to be safe, but then I was like, okay, that's overkill, Rain. You got to have your confidence. So I looked up, like I said, I looked up a few YouTube videos. My snowblower guy sent me some pictures. He gave me the pins, and I just had to go for it, and I fixed it. And let me tell you something. That shear pin cost $2.50. That was a $2.50 fix. Had I asked him to pick it up, bring it to his shop, drop it off, it would have cost me more than $375. And why? Because I live so far away from civilization. I live like an hour away from his shop. So he charges transport, plus he would have had it for a week. And if there was a snowstorm in the meanwhile, I would have been screwed. So I am very happy to say I am now self-sufficient, knowing how to change a snowblower's shear pin or shear bolt. I hope you found this educational and interesting, my friends, and I'll see you next time on Rain's Kitchen and Garden. Bye!